Hello, West Palm Beach. It's great to be back after the long holiday break. Welcome to the Reporters with Joe and Joel. We have a great show lined up for you today to tell you about the biggest downtown redevelopment you've never heard of, Nora. But first, a programming note. The show is no longer sponsored by Subculture Group, whose owner, Rodney Mayo, is running for mayor of West Palm Beach. Fortunately today, we are sponsored by a longtime area resident who supports a vigorous free press. Richard Rampell is a past board member of NPR's National Board of Directors, and he's a current board member of WLRN, the local NPR affiliate. Of course, we are happy to entertain offers from anyone wishing to sponsor future shows. I'd like to turn it over to Joe for a second, and he can move it along. Here we go.
Hey Joel, how was your holiday? Did you miss the radio booth here?
I missed the radio booth, yes.
I know it's been a long time. So I'm Joe Capozzi, longtime journalist in South Florida. I was at the Palm Beach Post for a good 30 years before I left, and I started a local news website. It's called byjoecapozzi.com. And Joel was at the paper about as long as I was. He was my editor for a long time on the investigative team, and he now does a news blog. He writes about Palm Beach Gardens and West Palm Beach, and it's called ongardens.org. And Joel, why don't you introduce our guest?
So today we are fortunate to have Ned Grace, who is a West Palm Beach resident, been down here about 10 years. And as he'll explain, he is leading a redevelopment project unrivaled in city history since downtown Uptown was converted into City Place 20, 30 years ago. Ned and his partners have poured millions into a rundown warehouse district north of downtown to redevelop it into a trendy hotspot for restaurants, live-work lofts, and offices. And Ned will correct me if any of that is incorrect. So Ned, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks so much.
And welcome.
Thanks for having me. So my name is Ned Grace. I'm the managing partner at NDT Development. As Joel said, our firm is West Palm Beach based. We specialize in real estate. Locally, we've completed many projects in West Palm, Palm Beach, and sort of the greater area. We own and operate a property management business, hospitality venues throughout the market, and we're really excited to tell you about Nora, which is our large mixed-use project that sits between Quadro Boulevard and Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard, east of the FEC Railway and west of Dixie Highway.
So what did you see there that made you say, hey, I want to start investing in rundown warehouses by a railroad track?
Yeah, so it's a really unique location. Geographically, we're on the northern part of the downtown master plan. Quadro Boulevard, which extends to Palm Beach, is our southern border, and the makeup of North Railroad Avenue, which is where the acronym Nora comes from, it's a street that at one time in the 1920s, the Flagler Railroad stop was just on the south end of it. And so these buildings, these warehouses were built in the 1920s to support the rail station there, and they've got a very unique character to them, 1, 2, and 3-story buildings. And so we got excited to adaptively reuse these relic buildings, which I think is really sort of what people are looking for these days, sort of a high character district. And our district sort of is a mix of adaptive reuse and new development.
So you're not going to come in there with a wrecking ball and just tear it all down like they often do these days?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I think the ethos of the project is focused on conservation. So, we really believe in placemaking, and so the project was started. We were introduced to the area and started to really dig, and we bought a few industrial buildings and thought we would do a small placemaking project. And as we really sort of uncovered the opportunity, we saw the opportunity to assemble much more of the real estate and to do a much more sophisticated large-scale project. So absolutely not. We do have a bunch of vacant land that sits at the north part of the project, just south of Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard. We assembled nearly 80 parcels to date in the in the four corners of what we call Nora. and a good amount of that is vacant land parcels that are ripe for redevelopment. So we took the vacant land area and went through a major rezoning over the course of the last couple of years, with the support of the city of West Palm Beach. And we took what was 1 and 2 story zoning and are now looking to build 8, 15, and 20 story product on the north side of the neighborhood, which will mix well with the conservation area that sits along North Railroad Avenue to the south.
And you want to talk about approximately how much you have spent to gather all those properties together?
Yeah, in total, I think we're approaching $100 million in total spend. There's been various phases of that spend, and we're into the construction phase right now. But a lot of the acquisition and assemblage happened over the last 5 years, and then we began planning right away. So the planning exercise was fairly sophisticated and major, and now we'll get into the vertical development. And all in all, the project should be close to $1 billion in total spend.
So when you look at coming up with that kind of money, is that you had to achieve financing to get there, or you made the assemblage first? And
yeah, so our firm NDT Development had used its capital resources to assemble the land and the buildings, or the majority of the land and the buildings, and so that was sort of the venture real estate piece where we didn't know if we were going to get it all. We didn't know how much we were going to get, but we sort of plugged away, and transaction after transaction, we're able to close on every single piece of real estate along North Railroad Avenue. And then we had single homes, homeowners, and vacant parcels that we had to assemble in many transactions as well. So we did that as NDT Development, with our capital, and then about a year ago we brought in a private equity firm to recapitalize the project and to help fund all of the vertical development. So our capital partner in this project is Wheelock Street Capital, and that Wheelock was sort of a very strategic capital source for us. We went directly to Wheelock, because of their investment in West Palm Beach to date. They had recently bought the Ben Hotel, and they also are developing a new office building, Class A office building on Clematis Street, with a group called Brand Atlantic that's in the Nico's Pizza spot there. So Wheelock had an interest in being in the market, and we're already invested here, and understood that our plan was to have a one-stop shop for the capitalization of most of the vertical elements of the project.
And I got to ask, when you go public like you have over the last 2-3 years, does that mean it's a lot harder to finish the assemblage? Are you finding buyers have jumped up in what they want for their land?
Yeah, most of the
sellers.
We bought most of the real estate, prior to our public process. The assemblage piece was really tough. There were, especially on the industrial side of it, so all the industrial buildings were different owners, and at one time housed different types of businesses. So there were all different types of motivations to the ownership. Some sold right away. Some closed down their business. Some sold their business, and that was that all sort of happened prior to this being in the public eye. Most of our other dirt was contracted. We've continued to buy stuff as it comes up. So the answer is yes. It's gotten tougher to acquire stuff, and there really isn't anything available these days that we don't already control.
And that's what I was going to ask you. There's still a few houses here and there that you don't own. And
yes.
Does the city CRA own some property in there?
They don't. So the entire district is about 40 acres. If you look at Quadrille to Palm Beach Lakes, FEC to Dixie, we control about 15 acres. So there's a good chunk of the project that mostly the single-family residential enclave, which is a conservation area. 1950s bungalow-style homes along 8th, 9th, 10th Street. We own some of them, but not all of them, and we'll look to do smaller residential projects, conservation, but just enhance that neighborhood, and keep the residential enclave in place. So this truly is a mixed-use neighborhood. It's got the conservation of old 1920s buildings with low-scale residential, and then we've got your mid and high-rise residential, hotel, office, that's currently in planning. So the first phase is the adaptive reuse of the railroad buildings, though.
So this is incredibly ambitious. I remember talking with David Palladino, and his partner was Henry Rolfs, and he started by saying, I'm going to assemble a block. And that block ended up being 77 acres in the heart of downtown. What was going through your mind and your partner's minds when you started to realize that you could do an assemblage here, but you'd have to invest maybe up to $100 million? What were you thinking?
So, I think one sort of background piece on NDT development, we own and operate hospitality businesses. So we own 123 Datura here, just a block from us, and we own Cucina on Palm Beach. We have a few other concepts. So the first phase of this, the first purchases we made were really, we thought we could self-concept and create a little, sort of restaurant district ourselves. And we thought, geographically, it's, in the heart of the downtown. You have regional access from Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard, and you're accessible from Palm Beach Island. So we were going to do a smaller format, restaurant-focused area. So that gave us the confidence to make the first purchase, or the first couple purchases of the buildings. And then we took a step back and looked at sort of the makeup and ownership dynamics of the rest of the neighborhood. And it was fairly compelling, to stop what we were doing on the smaller stuff and to assemble the rest of the neighborhood to create the most compelling place that we could create. So I think urban destinations are often fragmented ownership, and this is an opportunity to have where we own and control all of it. So the curation is at a level that I don't think has been seen in this market. In an urban location. Obviously, you have large master plan developments like City Place, but this is truly we are maintaining the urban fabric of this street, but we control all the buildings, and so we can curate, and we've got all sorts of different types of restaurants, experiential retail, office, really exciting hotel that we can talk about. But it's got all the different aspects of that you'd see in New York City, but in West Palm Beach, and it's not a totally planned development, like you'd oftentimes see.
So does West Palm Beach need that? I mean, you have City Place, you have Clematis. They've been competing against one another rather than coexisting, and you're adding another entertainment district. Do we need another entertainment district downtown?
Yes, I think we're commercial. We're here, we live here, and so the commercial void has really been curation. So for us, Clematis, we actually looked at assembling Clematis Street before we started working on Nora. So we had looked at putting together buildings on Clematis Street, but ultimately the economics were tough to make sense of. You had owners that didn't want to sell, and and when you've got 25 different owners along a street with a commercial street like Clematis, you get different types of uses. They're not curated, they're not contiguous, and sometimes they're competitive. So you could have two Mexican restaurants right next to one another. You could have all sorts of issues when you don't have that control. So the first thing that we looked at was the ability to control it was really important to the larger vision. The second piece was the authentic nature of the buildings. I mean, these buildings have sort of a really special architectural. They're not your standard warehouse building that you'd see in other industrial areas. They are they have arched windows and multiple stories, and all have a rich history. And we think that people really are drawn to that type of thing. And then the tenant profile. We've really focused on tenant profile. So we're not super competitive with Rosemary Square. We're really going after different tenants, and I'd say there's very little crossover between the projects. Ours, we're much, a lot of our restaurant concepts are, chef-driven, sort of more boutique in nature. Some national chains, but smaller chains. And then our fitness concepts, rather than a large-scale LA Fitness, we've got more specialized, smaller format fitness uses. We've got a big boutique office component to our project, to our first phase of our retail. And we've got hotel as a part of our of our first phase as well. So we really think that this is sort of what's been missing. And obviously we started this project well before the migration trends had accelerated. But we've paid close attention to the consumer needs and wants and what exists and what doesn't exist, and we think we're filling a void sort of across our entire retail set.
So did you say the first focus would be on the warehouses?
Yeah, so we're getting ready to break ground here, hopefully next week, on the streetscape and infrastructure and the warehouse building. So it's North Railroad Avenue, which is our main street, our preservation area. It's about 13 buildings, 150,000 square feet in total. Most of it's adaptive reuse, but there are a couple new buildings that are being built to create a two-sided retail street in certain places. We've got a linear park, but the infrastructure, it's all new sewer, water, burying the power lines, curbless sidewalks, cobblestone streets. So we're really doing a
Cobblestone streets?
Cobblestone streets,
wow.
yeah, real sort of major infrastructure project, and streetscape, and we're really trying to celebrate, the adaptive reuse part of this project. So it's not, your traditional paver system that you'd see elsewhere. It's, we're really trying to sort of make an ode to that historic, railroad buildings that we think are so compelling.
And are there any plans for like signage or paying homage? This is where Henry Flagler's railroad first came through?
Yeah, so we've got all sorts of wayfinding and whatnot that will happen throughout the district, and we're pretty proud of the adaptive reuse and sort of the conservation components of this project. So you can bet that we will be focused on opportunities to pay homage to the historic nature of the neighborhood.
Is there one centerpiece building that you could tell us about that it's a 1920s building that you're about to rehab?
Yeah, there's a building that was our first purchase. It's the only 3-story building today, and that's 905 North Railroad Avenue. It's a 30,000 square foot building. It'll be restaurant and retail on the ground floor. We're working on sort of a clubhouse type concept on the top 2 floors. That'll be some co-working type space with a social club component to it. That'll be hopefully a melting pot for West Palm Beach and local residents. To grab a coffee, grab a beer, grab dinner. Take a meeting. But that's the building that it's actually the center of North Railroad Avenue, and it's also got some very unique architectural elements to it. So, and we've built sort of around that or assembled around that. So,
what are the architectural elements? Does it got original flooring, original ceilings?
Oh yeah, it's all
dade pine.
All Miami dade pine. We've stripped the dade pine out of a couple of the buildings, and we're saving it all to be reused in the project. So all the buildings had sort of some fantastic elements to them that will be reused in the redevelopment. But this building has beautiful archways, high ceilings, impeccable structural condition 100 years later. So it's and it really stands out. I mean, when you look at the building, just the way the windows are oriented, and it's a pretty special building.
So what makes you a New Yorker who's down here a relatively short time, interested in preserving a piece of West Palm Beach history like that?
So my partners, I've got 3 partners, Damian Barr, Sam Grace, and Tim Mullen, and we all lived here. We've all sort of we've been in West Palm long enough to know what we like, where we think the opportunities are, and so we're excited because we live here. We're not out-of-towners that are coming into town to do a project. We lived here first, and we plan to deliver something that's a legacy for West Palm Beach for the long run. And we've brought in a team of people that are all sort of best in class from around the country to help us with making sure that we deliver the most compelling project for West Palm. Our day-to-day partner is a guy named Joe First, who was supposed to be with us today, but he had something come up. Joe is out of Miami and has been our partner in the project from very early on. Joe's one of the pioneers in Wynwood, and Joe had the policy experience. He developed the business improvement district in Wynwood, which ultimately led to a lot of the ground up development that's happened. And he also did a lot of the placemaking via his role as managing partner at Goldman Properties.
And for our listeners who aren't familiar with Wynwood, you want to?
Yeah, Wynwood is a large neighborhood in Miami that has celebrated sort of all arts and culture. Commercial uses started to pop up in a big way in 2010 time frame, and it's turned into sort of one of the hottest neighborhoods in Miami. And ground up developers from all over the country have come in, bought sites, and are developing apartments, hotels, office, etc. And it's a really vibrant area with a lot of character. And it's known for the arts piece. A lot of the buildings are painted by various street artists and whatnot.
Is Nora going to have buildings covered with murals?
No, we are committed to art. Just generally, the arts program is important. I think to delivering a culturally iconic area, but it's not going to be the same type of delivery as Wynwood. I think there will be elements of art throughout the district, though, and we're working on our Arts in Public Places program, and I think it'll be quite special.
Yeah, I saw one of the newspaper articles in the last year compared it to West Palm's Wynwood, and I think that they did that because Joe had developed Wynwood. But when people read that, they think, oh, there's going to be murals covering the buildings.
Yeah, it's very different than Wynwood. For one, Wynwood is much larger, and there wasn't contiguous ownership. So because we own everything along North Railroad Avenue, it's a different type of delivery. Wynwood had fragmented owners, and what's really special about Nora is in the conservation area of North Railroad Avenue. You don't have a situation whereby you put in a great coffee shop or a great restaurant and the neighborhood starts to take off and those buildings get raised and high-rise happens. So our vertical development is adjacent to but not in conflict with our retail and sort of conservation area, like our placemaking piece. So all of our vertical development, 8, 15, and 20-story buildings happen to the north of our sort of core placemaking area.
Which would be south of Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard.
Yeah, north of 10th Street.
North of 10th Street, but the whole area goes from Palm Beach Lakes to Quadrille, which is about 7 blocks.
Yeah, it's from 6th Street to 11th.
6 to 12.
12, yeah.
And so, just as a identifier here, we're here with Ned Grace from the Nora District and NDT Development. I'm Joel Engelhardt. I'm here with Joe Capozzi, the reporters, with Joe and Joel. And did you have?
Well, I don't want to jump ahead, but I'm kind of excited about the hotel, and that's so your partners are BD Hotels and Sean McPherson, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they among their projects they restored the famous Chelsea in New York City.
Yeah, so we've been huge, from what I can remember, huge fans of Richard Bourne, Ira Drucker, and Sean McPherson, sort of iconic hotel developers and operators out of New York, and their projects include the Chelsea, the Bowery, the Greenwich, the Jane, the Maritime, the Ludlow, the Mercer. So
iconic.
Yeah,
places
some of the most iconic.
York, yeah.
And frankly, we were looking at the hotel piece of the project, and we got Richard to come down to West Palm, and he took one look at the real estate and fell in love with it almost looks like a movie set when you see it. And so Richard and Sean actually invested in the overall project and in our building the hotel. So we're currently in design on the hotel. It'll be a 5-story hotel, 175 keys, with a signature restaurant on the ground floor, and a big sort of rooftop F&B pool opportunity as well.
So kind of like the Ben, or a little more unique from.
I think it'll be different than the Ben. It'll have I think a more boutique look and feel to it. But I think it'll be likely a big name restaurant that many people will know. So but we think it's a special thing. We think hotel's a big opportunity in this market. Obviously we'd actually NDT had done the development of the White Elephant Hotel on Palm Beach. So when we started buying this real estate, we were actually finishing up the White Elephant. So we were driving over White Elephant's just over the North Bridge on Palm Beach Island. We were driving over the North Bridge every day, and we would see this area, and it didn't make a lot of sense that it hadn't been redeveloped. And and there's a lot of reasons why it hadn't been redeveloped, but we saw that as the opportunity, and we think hotel, like I said, is that we've got a fairly big opportunity. It's fairly supply constrained, and this market deserves some hip, cool hotel products. So that's what we're going to do.
So can you give us the exclusive? Like, who's the restaurant going to be? You sound like you know what it is.
No, we're actually I can't. We're between a few different restaurateurs, but we should have something to announce in the next 30 days. So I actually really don't. I don't know which way it's going to go, but they're all good. So, and it's just a testament to the market. You know, people want to be here. All of the the best operators in the country. You know, New York, LA, Chicago, DC. They all you know have put West Palm Beach on the map, and they want to be able to either hedge their own, their business in the major market that they're in or the multiple markets that they're in, but they also see that their clients and their customers have either moved here or are visiting here more often, and this is a place that they see as compelling to open up a second, third, fifth location, or concept. So,
do you have high hopes for the changes the city hopes to make at Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard when they redo the bridge? I mean, that is a sort of seedy area around there, especially under the bridge and around the bridge. And the hotel is, a block away from the bridge, right?
Yeah, so the hotel is actually on the Cemex truck repair facility site, which sits just south of the bridge, between 10th and 11th Street on North Railroad Avenue on the west side of the street, so along the FEC Railway. Yeah, so we're very involved in in the bridge, and we believe that Palm Beach Lakes is a very important. It's a very important project for the city. It's really a county. It's a county project, so it's funded. It's the bridge upgrade was funded by the penny sales tax initiative, but I think the city, the county, the CRA are all working on figuring out how to find more dollars to make it much more compelling, both infrastructure-wise and aesthetically, to service a growing migration that's coming from the north. So commuter traffic coming from the north, it's much better to take Palm Beach Lakes to get into the city than it is to take Okeechobee, because you don't have the bridge that goes up to Palm Beach, and there's a lot of congestion, and so commuter traffic will take Palm Beach Lakes, and if they're coming from the south, they'll take Belvedere, and so these 95 exits are really important to the regional appeal of West Palm Beach, and we're optimistic that that the city understands that, and that the county understands that, and we're hopeful that we get the best possible bridge, and we're supportive and involved, and we own all the property that sits directly to the south of it for the most part. So
people can't turn into railroad from the bridge, can they?
There actually is a turn you can turn into Madeira, but it's not it's not a wide enough.
Is that something you're going to be?
Well, we're working on circulation and traffic right now. I mean, we are going to likely add a couple of we're working on lights along Dixie Highway to get in and out of the project, and we're working on different sort of circulation mechanisms, and all of it has it's circulation, traffic, and parking, and we're trying to to make it so that it's easy, and we're trying to incentivize pedestrian traffic, and and we'll do everything in our power to do that. So we're spending a lot of time on on identifying the traffic opportunities and circulation opportunities that are going to be best for our project and best for the city.
So what is the time frame we're talking about? When I can stay in the hotel, when I can start going to Nora to have a bite to eat? Yeah,
so like I said, we're breaking ground on the infrastructure right now. The buildings, the adaptive reuse and new buildings will begin early second quarter of 23, and we will open for business in the late summer, early fall of 24.
Just listening to you describe the project, that sounds like a short time window, but maybe that's the way it's done. I mean.
Yeah. So so it's it's about almost 2 years from now, and we we've got most of the spaces are leased up, and so we're working hand in hand with tenants from all over the country, and the base building, all of the planning on the base buildings has been done. We'll be in for permit on each of those different buildings, over the course of the next few months, and all the infrastructure work, which is a major project. I mean, the infrastructure project is a $20 million plus project along North Railroad Avenue. So all of that is is well underway, and is like I said, we'll start next week. It's everything's mobilized, and there's all of the tractors and plumbing and all of that is sitting there ready to go. So,
Oh, wow.
Can you provide any names of the signed retail tenants?
so we're not releasing any of the names right now, but I can tell
Just
you.
one.
I think I know one.
I would.
Chico's, the
Yeah.
women's clothing store.
No, so it's actually it's a heavy F&B delivery. So
F&B.
a lot of F&B.
Football.
Food and beverage.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it's a lot of F&B, and I'd say just to give you an idea, I mean it's everything from all-day cafe, coffee, your neighborhood coffee shop, your grab and go, your salad, your mid-scale, Mexican, Italian, sushi, everything up to fine dining.
So you park, you get out, you pick a restaurant.
Yeah,
you can
park,
pick
you
one
get
of
out,
many.
and it's there's a valet program and a pretty sophisticated valet program, pretty sophisticated grab and go parking opportunities, and it's we've got a phased parking program. So as the vertical elements happen, they'll have parking that will service the district, but we have surface lots that will act as the parking opportunity as the phase one delivers, and then so on and so forth. But
then you'll have to go to deck.
What's that?
To parking decks.
Yeah, so there'll be parking decks eventually. We will always have some level of surface parking that, but there definitely will be parking decks to service this much.
Have you talked to the town of Palm Beach about the entryway to Railroad Avenue? Where does that stand?
Yeah, so the town of Palm Beach owns that land, which is actually the land that I referenced was the original Flagler Railroad station, and so that's the background is that was where the train would stop in West Palm and then go over Quadro Boulevard over to the breakers. That's where the train would.
The Flagler Memorial Bridge.
Yeah, exactly. So, and so the town has signaled that they're going to eventually do something with that site. So we're in talks with all the stakeholders in the town of Palm Beach about that site. It would be great for our project to be able to include that site, incorporate that site, but we just want to make sure that something special happens there that benefits the whole downtown.
Is there a roadway option that would allow for access to Railroad Avenue?
We've worked through a bunch of different opportunities. One unique characteristic of Railroad Avenue is that all of our circulation and flows through parking lots and whatnot is designed in a way where we can close down the street. So we don't want this to be a vehicular forward street. We really want it to be a pedestrian forward street. So we see much like the 500 block here, we'll be closing down for weekends and programming and whatnot, and traffic will still be able to circulate throughout the neighborhood. So I don't see a situation whereby from Quadrille it makes North Railroad Avenue into a heavy vehicular place, but it could definitely get you into the neighborhood. It could. There's a lot of different opportunities that we're sort of exploring and concepts that we've designed, and we're hopeful that the town of Palm Beach looks to us when they run their RFP process for that site.
So you have all your approvals? Like, I'm just trying to envision, is there any trap doors that could delay or anything like that? Or
we took the project through entitlements. We got all of the rezoning done a couple of years ago. Each project obviously has its own permitting and site plan approvals on the vertical and whatnot. But the form is all approved, and so the as of right form was completed in March of last year. So.
What kind of reception did you get from the the more heavy hitter developers here, like the developers of the Square, the Related Group, who's doing a massive amount of building in downtown West Palm, or Jeff Green, who's also got various projects, especially one big office tower. I think it's an office tower going up next to your project.
Yeah, so I mean we're all friends. I'd say that our uses are all complementary. So I think Related has a lot of office. They have a lot of office tenants, and those tenants have consumer needs and wants, and we'll service a portion of those needs. But every great city is made up of multiple neighborhoods and destinations, and so the Related guys are close friends of ours. We talk quite often. We share information, and we hope to just help make West Palm Beach a unified city. And I wouldn't be surprised if we work together on various connection opportunities and whatnot in the future. So, but we're very close. And Jeff's building the 2 towers that sit just to our south. We're a great amenity for the residents, hotel guests, office users that will be in those towers. So we hope to be the place that they come for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and exercise. And we're a big amenity for that project, but also for all the development that's happening to the north of Good Samaritan Hospital. So Savannah related. There are other condo projects that are condo and rental projects happening north of the hospital, and so we hope to be the connective glue. And be the amenity set that all of those residents, will use.
All the way up to Curry Park.
All the way up to Curry Park, yeah, exactly. And so this is we're pushing we're pushing north, and hopefully, the city will be more connected because of it.
Are there fears of from the pushback from the predominantly and historically black neighborhoods immediately to your west and to your north that you're going to start forcing people out? Are you doing anything about affordable housing?
Yeah, so a few things. One, we were fairly strategic with our with all the vertical master planning. It was done in an area which was predominantly made up of vacant land. So we didn't. It wasn't like we bought 70 parcels that all had homes on them and residents. It was there were only a few homes and not many residents in the neighborhood in that area between north of 10th Street. So there was a big chunk of vacant land. So that was sort of strategic in that there wasn't a big displacement of people or anything like that. There are still a few different homes in there that that we work closely with and frankly have established a relationship with. The Pleasant City to the north, have been some of our greatest supporters. It's investment next door. The historic Northwest, we've established a great relationship with many of the different residents in that area. I think people are excited. They're excited for something new and for investment and job opportunities. And there's a lot of great things that come with a project of this size. In terms of affordable housing and workforce housing, we got to commend the city for all of our zoning was incentive zoning. So by right you could do 2 or 3 stories, and we took that and now we do 8 stories. And so the difference, the city has adopted this workforce housing ordinance, which basically takes a percentage of the incentive zoning that we got and requires workforce housing for residential rental projects. And so we've got between 10th and 11th Street, we're building 2 large apartment buildings north of 600 units, and there will be a significant amount of workforce and affordable housing. So 60% of AMI, 80% AMI, 100% of AMI. There will be a chunk of units that are dedicated.
What percent of the 600 units?
So for our project, I think it's about 65 units or so. And then we're looking at other opportunities, for workforce housing in the city as well. So
housing above retail?
Housing above retail, yes. And we've got, so we have some unique zoning conditions. The major rental area for us is between 10th and 11th Street. On the 10th Street side, 10th is a residential street, so it'll be residential liner, but on 11th Street, that'll be a commercial street with, apartments above.
Have you done much, I don't know if this is a premature question, advertising about Nora in markets around the country? For instance, I think about the spring training teams here, the Washington Nationals and Houston Astros. That seems like a natural to put ads in their papers or whatever, so when their visitors come for spring training, they're going to go shop and stay there.
Yeah, so that's all, our whole marketing, we're building a marketing team and marketing platform. That'll really kick off in the second, third quarter of next year. We'll really start with that. It'll begin with a lot of the tenant announcements, but there will be a sophisticated programming and marketing team within the project. It's large enough that it can support a full-time programming and marketing team. So that's definitely to come in pretty short order. Right now, most of our marketing is more real estate related. We had obviously announcements about entitlements and partnerships and whatnot, but various news outlets have picked up on what we're doing. But I think we want to tell the story when it's fully ripe, and that's coming soon.
It's a fascinating combination of things, and really interesting for you to believe that our little town can support yet another fairly massive, you still have Palm Beach Gardens out there to compete with, and Atlantic Avenue, and even Lake Worth. And now there's a big project going up out on Wellington at State Road 7 and I believe Southern, which is also trying to do a lot of what you're doing. So there's all these major centers being built. So I'm still trying to get a feel for why you think.
I'll give you my sort of overall. This is sort of how I think about the world. But Atlantic Avenue is a great example. So Atlantic Avenue is a singular street with like-minded ownership. So there's an element of curation, mostly centered around F&B, destination F&B. That the more restaurants, the more people, and so you have better demographics, in terms of population, commuter population, 10, 15-minute drive times than you have on Atlantic Avenue. And
here.
Oh yeah, West Palm Beach is. West Palm Beach
you
is
got an ocean on the one side.
Well, West Palm. So it's the same thing in Atlantic Avenue, right? West Palm Beach is the epicenter of of the county, and Atlantic Avenue has really thrived. The restaurant volumes are great, but it's an example of of putting really good concepts right next to each other, and that's what we're doing with curation. It's the clustering of really good stuff to create a destination. And we're not going to be just we're not a Palm Beach destination, we're not a West Palm Beach destination, we're not a regional destination, we're all of the above. I mean, we've got the regional appeal based on the geographic location. We're in the downtown, so you can walk from Clematis in less than 10 minutes. The Bright Line is a 12-minute walk. And then you've got access to Palm Beach Island. So all of those, that triple threat for location is important, but it's all about clustering. And I believe heavily in if you put a bunch of good stuff together, it drives outsized it'll drive outsized trips to the neighborhood.
So who gets credit for coming up with Nora?
So Nora, the backstory was we had met a broker years ago who had sort of come up with the idea for the project, and we were, like I said, we were sort of living and breathing that North Bridge, and we worked on it over the course of a couple of years to start with the initial assemblage. And so our firm, NDT Development, Place Projects, which is Joe First's firm, we're really the sort of the pioneers. We were the pioneers of the neighborhood, and we purchased the real estate, and and ultimately Wheelock Street Capital is our partner to support us. Nora, like I said, was actually it was actually coined by someone else, but just for North Railroad Avenue. So it was NORA, and we like the name a lot. I think it's a non-offensive.
And it's catchy.
It's catchy.
Easy to remember.
Yeah. So it it sort of stuck. It was kind of a working name, but we're excited about it. And there will be other there will be a little branding other branding within the neighborhood, hopefully. So we've got some exciting ideas up our sleeve about incremental branding opportunities within the neighborhood.
So I always think back to Roger Dean Stadium in Jupiter. That was built in 1998, and I can remember we did stories about that planning. And I love the story that George DeGuardiola told of I think he was with Ted Turner on his yacht, and they sketched out the initial plan on a cocktail napkin. So is there any story like that gave birth to Nora?
It's a lot of cocktail napkins. Frankly, our business, NDT Development, was really started around Nora. One of our, we had been working, my partner Damien and I had been working on sort of a holistic plan for the area. Just we had obviously spent a lot of time understanding the ownership dynamics, but we didn't have the capital in place. And one of our now partner came to us and said, hey, I think that area there north of the downtown is really interesting. Have you guys done any work on it? And we pulled out a folder that was full of all sorts of information, and he said, well, let's do it. And so then that was how NDT was actually formed. We were operating sort of as sole proprietors to some degree, doing real estate projects in a more of a fee capacity locally, and doing restaurants and other stuff, and NDT really was birthed out of married the capital and our expertise and work on the project. So that was the sort of the formation of our company, and it's been a great run here so far. So
were you doing development up north?
No, so I moved here from New York 10 years ago. I was working on Wall Street, and came down here. I got involved in the property management business with my partner, and then we started buying small multifamily throughout the county. So we were pretty active buyers of single family and small multifamily rental. And that was a great time to be buying that stuff in 12, 13, 14. And then as that got more expensive, then we got into heavier development, the restaurants, and we started working on the hotel, and so we've really just become super focused geographically on West Palm, and that's where we are now. So other projects we're working on a townhome site. We assembled an area just south of Southern Boulevard in West Palm Beach that will do 32 townhomes, rental townhomes, nice rental townhomes. We're looking at other sort of scaled opportunities in the city, within the city limits. We think the growth isn't going to stop, and we think West Palm is really well positioned, and it's great to have these other large formidable developers to sort of help push push things forward. So we're grateful and excited about the future of West Palm, and I think it's going to look like a different place in 5 years.
Yeah, and that just on that note, I mean, we're sitting here doing the show, and I'm looking out on the 500 block, and I can remember back like 1984, this was a place you did not want to go after hours. Mm-hmm. There was nothing here, and then Rodney Mayo took a chance and bought this place that we're sitting in, Respectable Street, turned that into an overnight success. That spearheaded the other development, and now it's like a Joel, and we're talking about Nora, and it's, right now, I don't know that a lot of people would go to that area after hours. Like, there's no reason to, but yeah. And it's going to be, just like you said, the future is going to be exciting once it's done.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, honestly, it's kind of interesting if you look at you go to North Railroad. I mean, it's vacant. So the entire street. It's a pretty cool. If you drive down 11th Street and take a left on North Railroad Avenue, it looks like a movie set. I mean, there's nothing going on. There's the buildings are uninhabited. And under the bridge, all of that. We're obviously cognizant of any issues, and we're paying close attention. So our project will be heavily security focused, and we're going to make sure that that the safety and security is first and foremost. So those historic issues will go away pretty quickly. And the city has been great with helping to clean up some of the areas, and we've obviously cleaned up a bunch of stuff that was going on. So we bought some bad houses that were problem houses for the city, nuisance houses and whatnot, and it's really cleaned up the area. Our office is right there in the middle of the project, so we've got an office between 10th and 11th Street on Dixie Highway, and we've loved being there. It's very convenient, and frankly, it's nice to be in the middle of what we're working on every day. So.
Well, likewise, the what is now the Square. In the 1980s, it was complained about. It was a neighborhood, but a lot of crack houses, and it wasn't a real gateway into Palm Beach or into the city. And so when the developers started to buy pieces very quietly behind the scenes, kind of like you did, and create their accumulation, the city said, the first thing we want you to do is knock everything down. So they immediately lost all revenue from all the products, so they no longer had any cash flow, and that's sort of when they started to go down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, ours is unique. We're not knocking a bunch of stuff down, so it's there's very little demolition. It's it's more rehabilitation, and then redevelopment of of an area that has been either vacant land parcel or blighted, and so I think it's a very different dynamic, and we've really focused, like I said, we created this conservation district, and we created some very unique opportunities to transfer development rights within the neighborhood, and we've got a legacy structures component to our that allows some of the homeowners that own houses within the neighborhood to sell their development rights for unused development rights. They can sell them and then use those proceeds to make their house better. So we've tried to really support the residents that are there, and we want to make the neighborhood as great as it can possibly be. So
I got to ask, you come in here, New York and West Palm Beach, and you're wearing, I think, a Colorado Rockies cap.
No.
What is that?
No, it's actually just it's a G.
Is that a Nora cap?
Yeah. Those will be coming soon. No, this is unfortunately not Colorado Rockies.
It's almost like a Detroit Tiger. And
yeah, it's actually a friend of mine's company.
What does it say?
It's called Grayson, but is the name of the company.
All right, we plugged them.
Yeah, there you go.
We're not talking about Grace like the great Fortune 400 company Grace.
No, it's Grayson. It's a clothing company, golf clothing brand.
Okay.
I didn't see the Rockies in that.
Yeah.
I did see the Detroit Tigers script.
Yeah, actually, the founder of Grayson's a Detroit
There we
guy, so that's
right.
probably what it.
Well, we really want to thank Ned Grace for being with us today and sharing all this fabulous information about the Nora development. Really, it's great to do this on radio, but it's really a video documentary should be taking place now to capture all the changes in that area as it transpires over the next year and a half.
Yeah, it's great. We both read a bunch of what's been written in print, and you get so much out of that. But just sitting and talking with you and hearing you describe the cobblestone streets, it's for me at least, it's bringing it to life more. And I think our listeners would agree too. So I appreciate your time spending with us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Well, and hopefully we can talk some more in the future.
Yeah, no, I look forward to it.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.